Yep, it's 6:36 now. We'll call the meeting to order. First thing, we'll just do a roll call of the trustees. Leonard will be a minute, but when I say your name, just say you're here. Cindy Miner?
Here.
Heather Moore?
Here.
Jason LaRose?
Here.
Okay, I'm here. Sam. Leonard's, like I said, on his way. Matt, you want to read the electronic statement there?
This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Enosburg Falls is being conducted electronically in order to ensure the safety of all attendees and to maintain compliance with Governor Scott's executive order. Per H 681 signed into law on March 30th, 2020, Section 6, there is a temporary suspension of designated physical meeting location requirements of Vermont's open meeting law, VSA Section 312A1. In order to ensure that all attendees can hear clearly, your audio has been muted. When you wish to speak, please raise your hand by submitting a chat request, or if you called in, by pressing *9. Once acknowledged by the chair, please clearly state your name and then proceed with your question or comment. Please remember that when unmuted, all participants can hear any sounds in your environment. Again, this meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, Matt. All right, looks like our last trustee just joined us. Leonard, can you hear us?
I don't think his audio is connected yet, Sam.
Almost.
Almost there.
No, we lost him. All right, we'll just move on. First item on the agenda is modification changes to the agenda. Anybody have any modifications or changes?
No.
All right, none, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody here from the public today? I don't think so. No. Okay. Next up, review and approval for minutes of July 2020. Everybody look those over?
Yes.
And any errors or admissions? All right. If everything looks correct, then I'll hear a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, Heather with the first. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Cindy with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we have a request for water and wastewater allocations on Jayview Drive for Pomerleau Real Estate Tractor Supply Store.
And we've got engineer representing Pomerleau Real Estate and the Tractor Supply Retail Store present with us, Steve Diglio. Board will find in your packet memo from Gary Denton, our Director of Public Works, acknowledging that the village has the capacity for water and wastewater allocations being requested by Pomerleau Real Estate on behalf of Tractor Supply. We also have Brian Ovid here, our Chief Operator from our wastewater plant. Brian, is there anything you'd like to add to that at this point?
Nothing. I did some calculations, then the engineer did some independent calculations, and we came up with the same determination of 5.5.
Yep. Thank you, Brian. So Steve Diglio, this is your opportunity if there's anything you would like to say to the board on behalf of the project.
It's a pretty standard project. We just have it's gonna have a fire service connection because it's gonna be sprinklered the building. So overall, I think the allocation we're going for is way over what we actually need. That's just how the design flows work out when it comes to working with the state. But you know, I was mostly here to answer questions about the project.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So it's, you know, at the board's discretion, what you would like to do, or if you've got any questions regarding the allocation, you've got several people here that can help answer those questions.
No questions.
How many allocations is there?
It's 5.5 is the request for both water and wastewater.
Hey, Leonard, you with us? We can hear you, or we can't hear you. Sorry. We'll get there. All right. Well, all right. If none of the members have any questions, and if staff thinks that it's within our capabilities, what do you guys think on approving?
I'll make a motion to approve the allocations.
All right, Jason has the first. So I have a second.
I'll second.
Heather with a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. All right. Up now we have Elm Street Water and Wastewater Engineering RLF application.
Yeah, Wayne Elliott from Alderton Elliott Engineering was going to log on here, but he doesn't seem to be here. It's pretty straightforward, though. Maybe Wayne will join in a minute or two. But the board will recall that the engineering study that we were going to do, really more sort of a scoping study on the Elm Street water and wastewater system, starting to look at, what would need to be done if we were going to replace both of those service lines down the length of Elm Street. What would be entailed with that? Also, what are the cost estimates associated with that? We had, did I hear a question?
I think we heard Leonard.
Oh, okay. We had budgeted $15,000, I believe, to do this project. We had some discussions with the state through the spring, and as it turns out, this project would be eligible for a revolving loan fund with a 50% forgiveness. So although it's set up as a loan, in a way it kind of acts as a grant. We've done these a couple of times in the past with the state. So you get a 50% forgiveness on the loan, saves the village some money in doing that. And staff would recommend that the board approve the revolving loan fund application for the Elm Street water and wastewater engineering work. Matt or Brian, do you guys have anything more you'd like to add to that?
I'm just here to answer any questions the board might have on that item.
How long would we see a return on that?
What do you mean by return?
If it's a 50% forgiveness, how long would it take?
So the way that works is we make the expenditures directly to the engineer as they perform the services. And then we make payment requests to the revolving loan fund as we have made expenditures. They reimburse us 100%. At the conclusion of the project, they set up an amortization schedule and immediately forgive 50% of the loan balance. And the remaining 50% has payment terms up to 5 years. It was our original intention to expend the $7,500 that was our share of the unforgiven loan as the project was completed. And there is no early payment penalty from the revolving loan fund if we wish to do so.
And that's been budgeted for the next 5 years?
It was actually budgeted entirely in this fiscal year for $7,500.
Perfect.
I see Wayne is here now. Wayne, Matt and I just talked a little bit about the Elm Street revolving loan fund project. Is there anything, we gave kind of a summary to the board. They asked a couple of questions. Is there anything more you would like to add?
No, just a reminder, because you did the QBS, you qualify for the 50% loan subsidy on the engineering portion. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Nope. Anybody has any questions, I'm glad to answer them. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
The one thing I would add to that is that the board might recall that we had planned to do both the water and wastewater engineering work on Main Street and Elm Street for the kind of phase 1 analysis. That's the $15,000, which is allocated to the water department, does not qualify for this loan program. And as you may recall, we budgeted the entire $15,000 expense in 2020 for the water department.
Thank you, Matt. Does anybody else have any questions?
No.
All right, well, if we think it's a good idea, I'll hear a motion to accept the revolving loan or loan forgiveness.
Make a motion for the,
A second?
I'll second.
Favor say aye.
aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right.
John,
Yeah.
did you also need to have the board take any action on the ESA associated with that?
The signing or
Yeah,
not?
the document that Wayne sent earlier today, the engineering services agreement.
Well, they could. I think you're asking if the board wants to give me authority to sign on the document itself, the application.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to handle that item at the same time, same project.
Yeah. On the application, I'm listed as the signatory on here. If the board is in agreement with that, you just, to be on the safe side, you could make a motion to name me as having authority to sign the revolving loan fund application.
I meant the engineering services agreement, John.
Oh. Okay, well, that too, I mean, they're related, but.
Well, we all have to sign it anyway, so I suppose if we all sign it, we're giving you permission to be the signatory on it. Right?
Yeah, whatever the board's most comfortable with. We can't hear you, Sam. Are you talking?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me either way. We can do whichever is most convenient.
So do we have, just to clarify, are we needing to decide between all of us signing it or in just John signing it, or does everybody have to sign it anyway?
Sorry,
It looks like everybody has to sign it anyway.
I didn't mean to create confusion here. The two separate items, the revolving loan fund is signed by the entire board. John has already signed it. Andy Bolio, as village clerk, has already signed it. So once the board has signed those, we're completed with that application document. The other document I was referring to was one that Wayne had sent to John today, which is the actual engineering services agreement with Aldrich and Elliott to perform the engineering services that are covered by this loan application. I think that only requires John's signature.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
John signing it.
So, yeah, sorry if that wasn't clear and we sort of created some confusion with that. The only other thing I would say with that, just to, be completely transparent, is that we have hired, or we intend at least to hire A&E for this project. We did not put the project out for bid simply because A&E is, the most qualified to do this project. They've been our engineers for our water and wastewater system since the mid 1980s. Wayne has been working within our system since at least Wayne, like 1988, 1989. So in order, for anyone to try and have more qualification than that, it would be a pretty far stretch. So I told Wayne to go ahead and draft the contract. Just want to be completely transparent about that, though. And I would certainly recommend that we hire Aldrich and Elliott to do this work for us. I feel, in all honesty, they are the best qualified engineer firm in the state to work on our particular water and wastewater system.
John, a couple of things if I could add to, so just for the board's comfort, I sent the agreement, engineering services agreement up today. And the reason I did that is we have to have the state review the engineering effort and fees, and they just did approve it today. So kind of a coincidence that landed today, the same night as the board meeting. John is the only one, or the authorized representative is the only one that was required to sign that. And just also a reminder, the village did go out to a competitive solicitation for the engineering services for the wastewater stuff. That was back a couple years ago, and we were selected. So the state actually allows the village to kind of continue forward with that. And that's part of the reason, again, you qualify for the 50% subsidy on the engineering side.
Okay. So do we need a motion to allow you to be this authorized signatory for that? What was it?
I think you can do it either way. I don't know, Wayne, do you feel the state needs that as a requirement to sign the document?
No, John, that's strictly a board decision, whatever you guys are comfortable with.
Yeah. So either way, if you can, name me as the designee to sign on the documents, if that makes the board more comfortable, but it sounds like it's not a requirement under the state's conditions.
Okay. I think we're all in agreement anyway. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just sign it.
All right. But was that all that? Was that all the information you were needing on that, Matt?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wayne.
Good night, Wayne.
All right. Next up is report.
If the board will allow me a moment, I will share up on the screen the presentation.
While you're waiting, this is Brian. Would you guys like me to stay involved here, John and Matt, or are you all set?
I think we're probably all set, Brian. Appreciate you attending tonight, but I don't think there's any further items on the agenda that would require you to be giving a response to any questions the board might have. So I think you're set. Appreciate
Okay.
you attending.
Thank you. Yep. Good night.
Bye.
Night.
Hard to believe that we're halfway through fiscal year 2020, but we are, plus a little. You have all received a copy of this in your packets. I'll just run through the bullets really quickly and answer any questions you might have. In the general fund, at this point, the forecast is to be slightly under budget by about $15,000. That could result in needing to raise less property tax than originally estimated. If the grand list doesn't move significantly, that would result in about a 0.0016 reduction in tax rate to 5599. Again, those are purely estimated numbers and subject to change between now and August, when we actually come before the board to ask you to verify and set the rate for 2020. The major items contributing to that savings, we've got about $1,000 in utility expense from the street lighting project upgrades that were recently performed. We've got about $3,000 in transportation fuel savings, and we spent about $3,000 less in snow removal from sidewalks this spring. Those are the major contributing factors, offset a little bit by wages, which is a little higher than originally estimated, due mainly to workers' comp premium allocations. Any questions about the general fund?
Looks good.
Wastewater department, At this point, water department. At this point, the water department is performing a little bit behind our original budgeted estimates. At this point, a $21,000 operating deficit is forecast, which is $15,000 worse than originally budgeted. $9,000 decrease in fund balance, which is $10,000 worse than originally budgeted. Major contributing factor to that is the water line break that we had in January, February. That had a total of about $8,000 worth of unexpected repair costs. And as the board is well aware, when those occur, they cost what they cost to repair, and it's sometimes hard to predict when they're going to occur. Also, we're about $2,000 over estimates for electric utility, and that's mainly a result of my mistake in estimating the savings that we would achieve by the variable frequency drives that were installed and completed last year. We only had a few months worth of operation on which to predict those electric savings, and we overestimated that reduction a little bit. Revenue is about 2,000 under original budget. Any questions about the water fund? Wastewater. Wastewater is on the positive side of the original estimates. We're looking at a $19,000 operating deficit estimated. That's about $29,000 better than originally budgeted, with a $62,000 decrease in fund balance, also $29,000 better than originally budgeted. Major contributing factor there, about half of that is interest that was waived by the state for the revolving loan fund bond issue. They, as a result of COVID-19, chose to waive all administrative fees or interest payments due in 2020. That saved us $13,000. A little bit of savings in insurance. Electric utility is showing some continued savings, and operating revenues are about $3,000 behind budget. I would say that the trend we're seeing in both water and wastewater revenues are possibly COVID related. They're relatively small variances on a percentage basis for annual revenue though. We also were able to achieve $9,000 in grant revenues from the revolving fund loan forgivenesses that we have done with those multiple projects in the wastewater department. And that's revenues that we hadn't anticipated, some of which we hadn't anticipated. Any questions about wastewater? Okay, on to electric. So the current forecasts for the electric department are also positive against original budget. We're looking at a $249,000 operating deficit. That's $22,000 improved over what was originally budgeted. $112,000 decrease in the fund balance, also $22,000 improved. Major contributing factors, we're estimating to realize about $38,000 in revenue associated with the early deployment of the 2020 approved rate increase. That will be offset a little bit by a reduction in what we call jobbing or reimbursable revenues. Whenever we do work that's not part of our distribution system but is required for a customer to connect, and they're obligated to reimburse us for those services. We estimate those revenues annually, but they tend to move around a lot. It's hard sometimes to predict what projects will materialize. And I would say that that's also been slightly impacted by COVID-19. We had a moratorium on any of that type of work for several months in the spring. And that's a time period when we might have seen some activity from some of the sugar makers had they been able to do that. So we're about $18,000 down in revenues associated with that reimbursable services. Wages are a little bit higher than budgeted, $7,000, mostly due to PTO estimates. We're $40,000 over in generation costs and purchase power. Year to date, our hydro generation is about 2.2 million kilowatt hours. That's a 4.4% increase over 2019, same time last year. It's about 7.9% below the benchmark goal that we had associated with the anticipated generation capabilities with the renovations to the hydro plant. We've had a particularly dry spring, and water levels have definitely been a contributing factor. We saw lower generation levels in June and July than we normally would see in those months, and that was definitely a result of the amount of available water for generation. We've also had a few interruptions because of repair work to the units, as we've talked about in the past. We've seen some savings in heating fuel and some delays in training costs associated with COVID. We had to suspend all of our monthly safety meetings. We've had about $22,000 in cost overruns in infrastructure repairs, taxes, interest, and insurance, producing still a net gain of about $22,000 against what we originally had estimated in the budget. Any questions about any of the electric fund highlights? Do you want to review any of the details of the hydro generation? I have some other slides if the board's interested, but I don't need to go into those unless you have some questions.
As how you would estimate your expected generation, and I'm assuming that it wasn't on our 2019 generation.
Correct. So the generation history, we looked back from 2000 onward, and we picked a 10-year period that had kind of the maximum generation output before we started to see some significant downturn in annual generation levels as the turbine unit started to kind of wear down and reach that point where we started the renovation project. So the benchmark goal that we're measuring against is that 10-year average from 2000 to 2009. And you can see on this line, those are the monthly values. And it is very seasonal what the unit generates, with kind of April, May, and June being traditionally highest output months. And certainly this year, we saw a significant downturn as we got into early June. So where the average is about 450,000 in the month of June on that 10-year look back, we achieved about 207,000 this June. July's numbers are a little improved over June, but they're not quite finished yet, so I didn't put them into this table. But it looks like we're trending to about 300,000 for the month of July, so it's up a little bit. But then we go into definitely our two lowest producing months before we start to see it tick back up again in the fall. At this point, if we don't have any other interruptions in production, it looks as though we might hit about 3.6 million for the year, which would be about 200,000 over what we did in 2019. Any other questions?
Nope, that answered my question. Thanks.
All right. And in general, I'd answer any other questions the board has about fiscal position, anything that I might not have covered in the slides that you might be interested in getting an update on. I did reach out to the town clerks to see where we're trending right now with the grand list for 2020. She believes that we will see a very slight upturn. There have been a couple of new construction inside the village, so we will see a couple of new properties on the grand list.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions?
No.
All right, thank you.
A way to I guess see how much revenue that any new buildings are going to make for this year.
She was kind of cautious to share any details with me because until they complete the grievance process, they really can't be certain where the grand list is going to land. She does expect that to be slightly delayed this year. As you may be aware, all towns were given a little bit longer period. I think normally by July 15th they had to have numbers in, and they were given until August 15th this year, so about a 30-day extension. And she does expect that we will get our grand list for 11 book numbers from them by the 3rd or 4th week of August. So we should still be able to get our tax bills out very end of August, beginning of September, and I would hope to target a due date of October 15th at the latest.
Okay, perfect. All right, was that it on the mid-year financial?
Yes.
Much. All right, guys, let's move on to COVID-19 program and exposure control plan.
If the board flips in your packets, you'll see a document in there. This is a draft. And the title of this document and the reason for it being brought to you guys this evening is this is a requirement that our state government is making of municipalities before they can open to the public again fully. There are a number of requirements, obviously, as all businesses in the state have got certain things they need to do in order to service the public openly. And I'm not saying, you know, we're looking to open the office again to the public, you know, next week or something, but, you know, we're doing what we can to get prepared for that eventuality at some point. And this is another step in that. This document is based off from a template that was sent to us by the state. The original template had sort of, it was a mix of a lot of different parts of our economic sectors. So there were things within the template that didn't really apply to us. We've gone through this and sort of modified it, tried to identify those areas. There are also parts of this that required some further description on our end. For example, so in some parts of the original template, there were things describing, you know, what, for example, a waiter or waitress might need to do if they were in a restaurant setting. Obviously, that doesn't apply to our situation. So those kinds of things were taken out of the document. But I think we've got this to a point where we've got all of the necessary requirements that would apply to our particular situation, being a municipal government, you know, having an open place of business where people could come in and pay their bills, etc. And we've covered all of those points in here, as well as the points that would cover our our employees and the specific health measures that they're supposed to be taking as well. So that would, include social distancing and wearing a mask when you're in the proximity of another person, doing all the required cleaning to keep the employees safe. So, that means hitting the common areas 3 times a day. That's, cleaning like the door handles, light switches, any faucets or bathrooms you have in your facilities, things of that nature. Those are all required to be cleaned 3 times a day now. Just to keep the offices and the other facilities open, you have to do that. And then there were, some other things that were in here that were kind of standard within the document. Like you'll see this pyramid diagram listing the hierarchy of controls. That was just, that was in the template. So we left it in there, describes engineering controls. Yeah, so I don't know, how much you guys had a chance to go through the document. It is a little lengthy. It's 14 pages long, but I think we have covered everything that we needed to in order to meet the requirements that the state's looking for to have this COVID-19 control plan in place. It does need to be adopted by your legislative body, though, which is, of course, you guys, our Board of Trustees. So we bring this to you guys for you to, consider. And if there's things that you'd like us to change in here or questions, let us know. If you're okay with it, then you may want to consider adopting this.
It looks pretty thorough to me.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Oh, do I hear a motion to adopt the COVID-19 program and exposure?
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Cindy with a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay?
Aye.
Okay, and John, is that's going to require all of our signatures?
It says signature of company executive.
So John can sign it.
Yeah, if you guys wanted, you could just name me as the authorizing signatory on this if you want to. And then also the safety monitor has to sign it. And in this case, we've designated Gary Denton, our Director of Public Works, to be the safety monitor, or the health officer, as it's also called within the document. So it could be me and Gary that sign off on it. And the reason just in case you're wondering why Gary, thought about this a little bit, and Gary is in kind of a unique position with his job as Director of Public Works. The health officer, safety monitor description within the document is ultimately responsible for following up to all the different facilities that the village has and making sure that all of the requirements in there in order for the village to stay compliant with COVID-19 executive orders are being followed. So, all the cleaning, making sure that, people are wearing their masks when they're supposed to, making sure that, no more than 2 employees are in a vehicle at any one time. All those sort of requirements are to be monitored by the health officer or safety monitor. And Gary's is the one position in the village that actually circulates to all of the village facilities on a daily basis. Some of us go to multiple facilities, maybe every once in a great while, or you might go to just one other facility besides the one that you're stationed in, once or twice a week. But Gary's position circulates to all of these facilities pretty much on a daily basis. So He was in a unique position to fulfill the requirements of this health officer position named under the document. So I talked with him about it, and he said he was willing to do that. So that's why Gary's named as the health officer in here.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Everybody, we want to make John our authorized signer for that again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So up next we have Jim Cameron with us for Enosburg Initiative Report. Good evening, Jim.
Hi, Sam. How you doing? Hi, everybody.
Right.
I'm a little low in a good way for you folks. I'm a little bit of low energy tonight, and I'm going to just fill you on a couple things that are pretty much just ongoing. There's no new startling kinds of things happening. I say that, then you watch out, there will be. Anyway, so hi. So here's what we're doing. We've adopted the fence along the rail trail. I hope you're aware of that. If you're not, just the papers have been signed by the court, and we've adopted that fence. So we spent 2 mornings down there. We did one morning of repair. We did another morning of pressure wash. I'm going in Thursday afternoon to finish up the pressure washing, and then on Saturday morning, rain permitting, we're going to go and prime the whole fence, front and back. The neighbors know we've been communicating with them, knocking on their door. Ellen Stanley's been taking care of that. So we're communicating with the people that are, it isn't their fence, but they use it like theirs. So we're being respectful.
Where's
and we have I'm sorry?
Where's that fence?
The fence, it happens to be right across from the Quincy. It's the one that runs right along the rail trail.
Depot Street.
Yeah, Ellen Stanley, in a good way, cared about it, and so she started this, and so people are helping her. She's the leader, and we're helping her out. And so then on Saturday morning, we're going to do a paint thing at 9 o'clock, and that's to put a coat of white paint on it, a primer coat, and then we're going to probably top coat it with something that ties into the rail trail colors, which Ellen is also involved in. She's a representative, I think, on the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail or Rec Committee or something to that effect. So we're going to tie it in to that approach, marketing stuff. And then we're also expecting, as I mentioned to you before, and I'm sure it's something you think about every night before you go to bed, but we're expecting a pantload of signs to come in for the rail trail, the marketing signs, like this way to the ice cream store, this way to downtown. Here's where the new portalet is downtown, that kind of stuff. So as soon as those come up, so the fence will get all refurbished, if you will, and look pretty, and then we'll get the signs in there, and we'll take care of that. And then other folks have brought up the sign that's over by the auto store, and my guess is we'll go after that at some point and probably do the same routine. So that's where we're spending time on that. You've heard about this. You've heard about flags. I don't need to go over flags anymore. For the village, the town, and the volunteer work and everything that's going on in Enosburg, there's a reporter named Michael Frett from the St. Albans Messenger. We used to get a lot from, that's why I do this work with my pictures in the paper, in case you didn't know that. I have a collage right up here. Just a minute, I'll show you. It's on my back wall here of all the pictures in the paper. But it was really good for the volunteer effort and the things happening in Enosburg, because a lot of people could see that in other towns and see that there was good positive energy and things happening in Enosburg. And when Tom Benton left, between Tom Benton, the COVID, and the Messenger changing ownership, you don't need to hear all this. Michael Frett is going to start paying attention to Enosburg. I met with him for an hour last week over a 8-foot, span. We talked for about an hour, and then he specifically wanted to talk about the rail trail fence. He wanted to talk about the Lincoln Park, and he wanted to talk about things he's going to follow up with, is what I should say. He wants to follow up on Tractor Supply, and what's going on with it, and put it, get an article in the paper for that. So this morning I sent him contacts for all those people that I gave him 2 names and 2 email addresses for anybody who was involved in those things. And it's on him to follow up and do that. We got we were front page, wasn't it last week? We were front page on our portalet.
Oh, the portalets, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting front page article there, Jim.
It was terrific. And my picture wasn't in it, and it was still terrific.
I wasn't quite sure what to think of that when I first saw it.
The village with a sense of humor.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. Yeah.
And that was
social justice.
Yeah, that's how I
go.
decided to interpret that, was just it's a little humor in some otherwise kind of cloudy days we're having, and we'll just take it as that. There's some humor.
It was just terrific, I thought. And so that's the same reporter who wrote that. He wrote that from your press release. I never spoke with him. I don't know if he spoke with anybody else. I think it all came from the press release. I think that's where he garnered all of his stuff. So
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good thing. I think that it is. Let's see. I'm aware of a new business that wants to start up in Enosburg, and I'm meeting with the owners of the property on Thursday to see if I can make a deal. And it just happened over the weekend, and I'm not being evasive as much as I'm excited and would like to give you some positive news. But until I talk to people, it won't be there. But this is a serious business or a serious person, so that's really good. They've been thinking about what they want to do for a long time. So the next time we talk, maybe I'll be able to fill you in on that. As a side note, the Quincy's getting guests. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but they're having guests over the weekend. Some during the week, but mostly over the weekends, and so that's good. We have a regular meeting this Thursday on the porch at 5:30 at the Quincy porch. We meet outside, and we let people Zoom in as well. That's what would be on my mind for tonight. Unless you had questions, I can let you folks move on.
Are you still willing to let my my preschoolers paint the fence after you're done priming it?
Yes, and with some modifications, but we've got ideas that have been discussed back and forth. Some people like it, some people don't like it, but to be specific is we give kids pieces of the fence, they paint it.
Right, it would be, supervised,
they hang it on
obviously.
The fence, so then it could come off.
Oh, okay.
Take it home, have it displayed, then they get to take it home later kind of thing, let it stay up for some block of time. How's that sound to you kind of thing?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the last best idea. It's not the plan yet. That's what we're talking about on Thursday night. You know,
okay.
How can we keep that? How can we make that nicer? I'm glad you brought that up. Cindy went walking by with a whole bunch of kids who were all yakking and yammering and having a good time, right? And here we are, the fence, and then we're going to let the people. We're going to allow, we're going to encourage them, people that live on the other side of the fence, to paint that side whatever color they want. You know, so kind of to make it their fence, but the public side will be, tied into the rail trail. So, and then the kids thing was let the kids paint a piece of the fence. And then some people thought, well, that could get pretty busy pretty fast, unless we've got a lot of really, really good young artists. And
or a teacher.
So the thought was what I just suggested. That's why to allow that to happen, but in a moderated way, if you will. So
right.
Have a critique, if you will, or something. We have a vote, leave people up for the week. I don't care. Whatever makes it happen, whatever makes it fun. And a kid goes up and is happy. How bad can it be? How bad can it be? All right. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
We're plugging along on the park. We're plugging along on the Doughboy. Can you folks tell us what the next step is from the grant perspective? The grant that you awarded last time, is that going to kick off opportunity, or how's that going to get started?
Are you talking about the scoping study grant, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think you're aware that an engineering firm was hired.
Yes.
Was Dubois and King, and we're currently in discussions with them about getting the contract signed, and also talking about a kickoff date. Because of COVID-19 and adjustments everybody is having to make, I think they're probably going to have to back out some of their timeline a little bit. And we're talking about that with them right now, but we don't have a firm date yet for a kickoff meeting. Mm-hmm. But we're in discussions with them about it.
being pushy or assertive, whichever you might like. We're using the porch at the Quincy for open air meetings. It works out totally fine. They have internet there. We put the owl camera up. So, and I'm not sure that the room would be packed anyway, but there are no large public spaces still open for meetings right now. So just keep in mind that, that there's an opportunity there for people to be comfortable and safe at the same time. And we,
Okay.
if I know that I personally, as a volunteer, would want to be able to participate in some sort of kickoff. I think a lot of people have lost track of that whole project, don't really know what's going on with it. So I'm really strongly requesting as a favor or as a volunteer that there be that kickoff opportunity, that we get people to come to and get re-involved, hopefully. So that's a request. And an opportunity, a place for you folks to meet if you want to do that kind of thing.
Okay, great. Thanks. Appreciate your comments on that.
I'm good.
That's all you got for us?
Well, I could keep going on, Sam, but I'm trying to be decent.
Okay.
I got a whole nother shtick. I got cards to read to you and stuff. I have like displays to walk you around my office. No. I'm trying to be a good guy.
Good stuff as always. All right. Up next, we have SQRP report.
Okay, so once you get through the COVID-19 control plan, you'll see the SQRP report included in your packet. Board will recall this is in there, Matt just pulled it up on the share screen. So this is required by the Public Utility Commission. We have to have this SQRP. SQRP, again, stands for Service Quality and Reliability Plan. It's a quarterly report that our electric department has to file with the Public Utility Commission, and we're required each quarter to have this on the board's agenda. There's really nothing, stellar or alarming or anything. If you look at this, you'll see that we're meeting all of our baselines for the year. So all pretty standard stuff in here right now. But we're required by the PUC to have this once a quarter on the board's agenda. So that's why it's on here.
All right. Well, if everything looks good and nobody has any questions, we'll move on to our next agenda item, and that's manager's report.
Great. Wanted to let the board know that the town of Enosburg has recently appointed Sandy Murphy as the new town health officer. So that's kind of big news, that position has not been vacant. Larry Jarvis has been filling in as chair of the town select board. But that's not really, I don't think Larry was doing that because he wanted to. It's just by state statute, if you have a vacancy in the health officer position, the chair of the select board has to fill that vacancy. So the town has finally found someone to become the new health officer. It's Sandy Murphy. And so congratulations to Sandy, and hopefully we'll see her around a little bit as she starts her active duty in that position. Also wanted to make the board aware that the executive order from Governor Scott regarding state of emergency status in Vermont due to the COVID-19 epidemic has been extended through to August 15th. The August 15th date replaces the previous date, which that state of emergency was set to expire on, which was July 15th. So it was extended another month. I had to guess. I don't think this is the last time. I think the governor will continue to extend that state of emergency date out into, at least the foreseeable future. It's anybody's guess at this point how long this pandemic will go on and how long it will be a crisis in our nation. But as far as anyone can tell right now, it's going to go on for a little bit while longer. So I don't think the August 15th date will be the last extension. Also wanted to let you guys know a new condition of the COVID-19 requirements. At the same press conference, Governor Scott announced that effective August 1st, which is this coming Saturday, masks will now be required in all public places, indoors or outdoors, where social distancing standards cannot be achieved. So previously, the governor had been reluctant to actually make it a requirement to wear a mask. It was highly recommended, but unless you were in a professional setting, like you were, working in an office, or you were, whatever, a cook in a restaurant or something like that. If you were in a professional setting, there were requirements, but if you were on your own time, there wasn't an actual requirement to wear a mask. So now there will be, going forward, effective August 1st. There are some exceptions, and those exceptions are based on medical conditions that some people may have. So, for example, I know infants 2 years old or under are not required to wear a mask. If you have certain health conditions, like I think asthma, if you're asthmatic, for example, I think there's the requirement won't apply to you because it'll, create. Have a good one, Jim. See Jim's note there. Because that requirement would create, breathing complications for you, hypothetically, if you got into that situation. So there are some exceptions if it's a concern for you or somebody you know or care about. You may want to look into those requirements in a little bit more detail, but just letting you know, I know there are some exceptions based on medical conditions that if you have one of those conditions, you won't be required to wear the mask. And then last thing under manager's report, I just wanted to let you know that yesterday I got contacted by Northwest Regional Planning Commission, and they have extended an invitation to the Board of Trustees for a ceremony that is going to be held in honor of a former resident of this community, and had also previously been a member of the Board of Trustees and also on the commissioners for the Regional Planning Commission, and that is Raymond LaRose. I don't know if you guys knew Raymond or remembered Raymond, longtime resident in this community, and as I mentioned, he had served on the Village Board of Trustees a couple different times, once in the 1990s and then again in the early 2000s. And he also served on Regional Planning Commission's board for quite a long time as well. And Raymond was a real advocate of the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail in particular, and he put in a lot of volunteer time helping to maintain the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail and this section of it around the Enosburg area in particular. And in Raymond passed away, if you don't know Raymond or you don't recall Raymond, about a year ago. And so in honor of Raymond, the Northwest Regional Planning Commission is going to erect a plaque next to where the new kiosk is, just off from Main Street. in honor of Raymond and just acknowledging his efforts in helping the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail and maintaining it. And that's going to be on August 12th at 2 p.m. And there's going to be two parts to this as it's been described to me. So if you're interested in going, they're going to have people meet first at the Enosburg Opera House at 2 o'clock. And there's going to be a ceremony there. And I think some discussions, if anybody's interested in saying anything about Raymond, if you knew him and would like to say some kind words, I think they would encourage that. And then people are going to walk down to where the plaque will be erected next to the new kiosk. And then they're going to do a formal, unfolding or unveiling of the plaque next to the new kiosk there in honor of Raymond. So just letting you know that. They contacted me yesterday and asked if I would extend that invitation to the Board of Trustees if any of you guys want to go to that. So did everybody get hear the date and time? Yeah. Are you related to Raymond, Jason?
Oh, I'm not sure. Probably. I don't know him though.
You might be.
Yeah, there's a lot of us around here.
Yeah, I know. There's Rose family is a big family around this area. Yeah. Just thought I'd ask because I was never sure if you were related to him or not. But I did know Raymond, the second time that he was on the board in the early 2000s, I was here. And so I did work with him as a member of the Board of Trustees for 3 years while he served out that term. So I'm planning, at least unless something else comes out that I just can't make it, I'm planning on going to that ceremony on August 12th. And if anyone else can make it, great. It sounds like they'd love to have you there. And that's it for manager's report.
All right. Thank you, John. So before we go into executive, does anybody have any other business?
I did have a question, and maybe if I had read the news article, I would know the answer. I don't think I saw the porta potties up yet. When are we expecting them?
No, we made the agreement. You guys had asked for 2 months, so we made it effective the 1st of August. So they'll be up there for all of August and all of September, and then you guys will decide, whether you want to keep them up there another month or not. But from remembering right, in the discussion at the last board meeting, you guys had agreed to try them, just on a trial basis for 2 months and see how it went. So we made it effective the 1st of August to put them up.
Okay.
Sam, I believe Sean has raised his hand as well.
Oh, sorry, Sean. Go ahead.
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Just want to take a moment. The EBA had approached me a few weeks back about updating this guy. Has anyone seen this before?
Yeah.
This was kind of their, I think it was a collaboration between EBA and EI at the time. They put together kind of this trifold pamphlet of places to visit, places to eat, sleep, places to shop. They had asked me if I'd be willing to kind of take that over and give them a new version. I did that. We ordered some today. We went through a few different rounds of revisions. Several people had input, and we have a new version of this. Can I screen share, Matt?
I think so.
Nope.
Well, I can share it from here for you.
Yeah, go ahead. So this is the new version. It's focused specifically. The other version was a little bit broad. This one's focused specifically on the walking center of the village. So you have places to stay, places to eat, shop, and kind of things to do. I'm currently working on a page on the economic development site that's kind of an extension of this for things that are more outside of what falls on the map. And that'll be a little bit of a work in progress to capture everything that there is, as well as just kind of nearby attractions. We really wanted to provide a map, and that's what you see there. We really wanted to provide a map so folks could get around and know where things are. And here it is. We ordered a good amount of these, and we'll get these distributed through the town and places where people will pick them up. We'll make sure they're on the rail trail and at state parks and things like that. And we want to get these out. So it's one of those living document things. So should there be new businesses, we can add those in and tweak this as we need. But this is the new Enosburg travel guide. Again, the EBA kind of commissioned this, and they foot the bill to, they voted on that this morning to get the cost of the print, and it'll be here probably in a couple weeks.
Looks great.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, Sean, I gotta say that looks really nice. I like the photograph on the front there. That's a really beautiful shot of the village. Is that taken up from Duffy Hill?
I found that one. I had to purchase the image. Finding quality images of Enosburg is very hard to do. But I found
What do you mean?
I found a photographer in Alaska who had this in his portfolio. But it was a perfect image. So it wasn't expensive to get, but it was a perfect use for this and then any other media that we produce. We felt this was something that was needed. It was a good update from what was already done and what was already started. And then the extension of the website will have more things that don't fall, they don't necessarily fall within the walkable map. It was kind of really what our focus was. We wanted to really call out all the things that people can do within a walking distance. So it's a small thing, but these small little things add up and hopefully will make an impact over time.
What's the Main Street Deli? I saw the Main Street Deli on there.
There's a Main Street Delight.
Oh, Delight. Okay.
Main Street Delight's the ice cream shop.
The creamy store.
Yeah.
Okay.
Main Market Plazas.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense that it has a name other than the creamy stand. Okay.
Yep.
I know everyone just calls it the creamy stand.
Yeah. And I thought deli, clearly I want a sandwich.
So there's we're trying to make a more comprehensive list of kind of things that fall within the town on the website. There was a lot of debate about the dairy center and whether or not we should try to find a way to be creative and include them. But, we really wanted to focus on what falls within the walkable map. And then, anything that falls outside of that is going to be, on the extension that's on the website. So we kind of had to set some rules on what was going to be included and what wasn't. Like anything, you can't include absolutely everything, but we tried to get as much as we could in here and what we felt was, the most important things to call out for a visitor.
Nice. Looks good.
Yeah, you did a really nice job on that, Sean. It looks great.
So we'll see. Hopefully these print out all right. It's been a little bit since I've designed something, so we'll cross my fingers and hopefully the color comes out all right.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean.
Yep.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Does the board have any objection to our posting that on the village website?
No, looks great.
Mhm.
Great.
Good idea.
John and Matt, I have a question for you. I've been getting a lot of people asking me on the street when the office is going to open back up. I didn't know there was that many cash paying customers out there, but they'd like a way to get back in if that's at all possible. I don't know if you have any timelines for that.
No, I know this is something you ask pretty much every meeting now, but honestly, I mean, if you guys order us to do it, we will try to do it, but you know, a few comments about it. To my knowledge, other than 2 municipalities in this state, there are no municipal offices that are completely open to the public without restrictions. The only 2 that I am aware of are Charlotte and Woodstock. So that's 2 out of 200, and I believe there's 251 municipalities in the state, and neither of those are in Franklin County. There are offices that are open by appointment. I'm sorry, I've also been told that Troy is also open, so that's a 3rd that I'm aware of. You know, I know people are kind of pining about this. I'll just share with you, you know, what my personal feelings are about it. We've got a very small staff. We have services that are essential to sustaining life to the community. You know, electricity, water, wastewater. Our staff has got to be, you know, protected in this as much as possible. Much as we can protect our staff, we need to, because if we get an outbreak of this, we may be hurting quickly if it goes around and all of a sudden we got, you know, 5 or 6 employees that have COVID and they've got to be out for a minimum of 14 days. It could start to get to be a pretty sketchy situation very, very quickly. And so that is a concern that I have. You know, and having said that, if there was something that we were not providing to the public, you know, as a service, I could maybe see a good reason to push on that. But we're actually providing everything that we normally do. We're providing electricity, we're providing water, we're providing wastewater, we're taking care of the streets and the sidewalks, and amazingly, we are still keeping all of the major projects that we intended to do in 2020 in focus, and we've had to adjust the schedules on them because of COVID-19, but at least right now, it looks like we still have a very good shot of completing at least the major projects that we had intended to complete during 2020, which in itself, to me, is amazing. Because in April and the beginning of May, it didn't look like we would be able to do that. You know, so every opportunity we see to move things forward, we're taking those opportunities and trying to do it. The one thing that we're not doing, though, is allowing people into the office to make physical payments. But I see that more as a convenience issue, not, you know, when you're weighing that against the risks, I see it as, you know, a small thing. But, you know, I'm maybe being too honest with you about my perceptions on this, but that's honestly how I see this. I mean, the people that are complaining that, you know, they want to come in because they want to pay cash, that's a convenience issue. There's really there's several other ways to make your payment. You can put a stamp on it and send a check. You can pay by phone. You know, you can call in by phone and we'll take a payment by phone if you give us a card number. You can pay online. We have an online system you can pay. So there's several other ways to do this. And I'll stop now. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. But I'm certainly willing to hear other perspectives if the board has other perspectives.
Cindy?
Well, I kind of agree with him, but there is a way around that. We could open like a night deposit box like the banks have, or you know, something that's more secure than what you had originally. And the staff would just have to, you know, work with gloves when handling money, because money is nasty. But that would be some expense to the village as well, in order to get something that's more secure for the people to put their envelope full of cash in.
The village used to have that, but it didn't work out for some reason.
Yeah,
I think someone, yeah.
We
Go
had
ahead.
a Dropbox for a long, long time. It was always, to be honest, kind of tenuous. It wasn't the greatest Dropbox, but it was there. And then 2 years ago, someone attempted to break into the Dropbox. Fortunately, they were not successful, but we realized in looking at what they had done that if they had a couple more tools with them, they could have actually pulled that Dropbox out of the wall. And we were fortunate that they stopped, and we don't know why they stopped. You know, maybe someone, you know, drove up to the front of the building or something, or maybe they just got scared and, you know, ran away. We have no idea why they stopped, but fortunately they didn't keep going, and they weren't successful in their attempt to get the box out of the wall. And so after that, we decided, you know, this is just too big a security risk. If someone had been successful in that, the complications that would have created administratively for us would have been pretty serious. I mean, at that point, virtually anyone could have came to us and said, I paid that bill. Oh yeah, that $2,000 bill that I owe you. Yeah, I dropped $2,000 cash in the Dropbox that day it got stolen. Yeah, I paid that. That's your fault because it got ripped out of the wall. And, you know, there wouldn't really be anything we could say about it. And people make payments like that. I mean, honestly, some people, when the Dropbox was up, they would put cash in an envelope, sometimes with no identification, not even their bill stub, in the envelope, and maybe just write their name on the front of the envelope, and that, you know, and that was it. You know, and it sometimes even worse than that. I mean, people have done really some pretty irresponsible things with the Dropbox, including sometimes we had situations where, say, for example, you know, a newspaper got stuck in the Dropbox, so you couldn't really push anything more into it. And people would still come, even though you could clearly see your payment wasn't going down the Dropbox. They would just like stuff it into where the newspaper was, but it was hanging out the end of the Dropbox. And anyone could have come and just taken the payment. I mean, it was sitting right there. So those kinds of things all combined led us to the decision 2 years ago that it had become too big a security risk, and we closed it off. But, you know, if the board feels that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, things have changed, then, you know, we can consider it again. You know, I understand for some people it's very difficult, but in all honesty, I still think there's probably other ways that these people could make the payment if they wanted to. I will also add that in special occasions, over the last month or so, Psyche Leach, who is our receptionist at the front desk, has made arrangements when people have told her there really honestly is no other way that they can make the payment except by cash. She has made arrangements to meet those people outside in the front of the building and taken the cash from them and given them a receipt outside rather than having them come inside the building. So that's something we started doing about a month ago to try and help people that honestly had no other way. And if they told Psyche they really just had no other way to do it, you know, they weren't able to get a checking account or, they didn't have a credit card or a debit card that they could use. And I realized, I think it's a small percentage of population, but there probably are some people that have credit problems. And so, they can't get those tools from the bank because they've done things in their past that the banks have said, we're not going to allow you to have those kinds of things anymore. And, for those people that have told Psyche there's really no other way for me to pay you except with cash, she has started to make those arrangements to go outside and meet those people outside the building.
Okay.
Matt, I don't know if you have anything more you'd like to add to that. This is a subject Matt and I have talked about quite a bit as well.
No, I don't have anything significant to add. We're prepared. We've done research. If the board instructs us to install a Dropbox replacement, we have identified a way to do that as securely as possible to try and mitigate the issues that were raised in the past. So just standing by for board direction.
Okay. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but as long as Psyche's made those accommodations for people that can't, maybe I'll hear less about it. If you have a plan, if we need it in the future, but I think you answered the question.
Yeah, and Matt and I have talked about the Dropbox scenario at least a couple of different times in the last month or so. And, I realize that it may get to the point politically where that just is going to have to happen. And if you guys feel like you're getting too much pressure about it, then I guess you need to make that decision in order for the box to be put back in. And if you do, then we will find a way, the best way we can, to safely install a new box somewhere where it can be safer.
Has there been any other board members that have been approached about this topic?
No.
Okay. Maybe
I
I
haven't
have.
had anything.
you haven't, Leonard?
Yeah, I've had a few people that were upset because of their work, that they want to pay. They want to go to the office to make their payments.
Yeah, and if it's just a convenience thing, if it's not, that they can't get a checking account or a debit card or something like that, then that's really more of a convenience thing. And that's where I kind of feel like, you got to weigh the risk in that. You're talking about someone being inconvenienced because they have to write a check and put a stamp on it, and they don't like doing that. At the same time, you could potentially be, exposing our employees to something maybe unnecessarily that they didn't have to be exposed to. But I understand for people that don't have any of those options, then it does become a bit more of a problem if they, because they have not been able to, get those services from their bank because they've had a bad credit history or something like that, and cash really is the only way they can pay, then, that is a bit more of a problem, and I understand that. And as I said, the last month or so, Psyche has been working out arrangements with people that have told her that there honestly is just no other way for them to make the payment other than cash, and she's been meeting them outside. So I don't know, maybe Leonard, you could mention that if you have some people in mind that, that's their situation, you could mention that to them to ask for Psyche when they call down and try to have her make arrangements with them for her to meet them outside the office.
Okay. Okay, will do.
Yep, that sounds
Thank you.
And like I said, if it continues, then we'll have to think of something else. But for right now, we'll just keep doing what we're doing.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any other business?
Yeah, I wanted to bring something up that someone asked me about yesterday. They were wondering about the village allowing ATVs, such as side-by-sides on the streets, like to go to a restaurant or a gas station or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
They
not
said
allowed.
they recently went to Newport and it was allowed there, and they thought it was great. They were able to go to the businesses there
Yeah,
and get services.
well, it's not,
So I just said I would bring it up to it.
it's not currently allowed. We haven't allowed snowmobiles or ATVs to ride on our municipal streets. I know there are a couple of municipalities in Vermont that allow that. There aren't very many. I don't know. It's, in all honesty, it's not something I'm enthusiastic about. But I guess if the board wants to discuss that, you know, we could do it.
Our streets are loud and scary enough.
Yeah, exactly. We got enough traffic on our roads without adding more noise.
The speed that I see is kind of, it's terrifying. I've seen kids almost get run over before, and it's just people, I'd be worried about adding more potential on our street. And I've heard that hasn't been, the people who are using those vehicles are happy with it, and I think the business owners are happy with the business, but I think a lot of the residents are not happy with it.
I just thought
Well,
told them I'd bring it up.
Okay, it's my understanding they're not allowed on the rail trail either, right?
Right.
That's correct.
Well,
They're
there is
not?
no,
No.
there's definitely
Because I have seen them right behind Bates, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth while I'm trying to walk on it.
yes.
Yeah,
there
people
is.
do it, but snowmobiles are allowed in the winter on the
Okay.
rail trail, but ATVs are not supposed to be on there.
Right, they built bridges and everything on the rail trail to get from one place to another. I have pictures, by the way, but also by the what is it? The cheese factory. Sorry, I walked down the rail trail and there's just green slime.
Oh, yep.
Water coming up from somewhere all around the cheese factory. Is that something we should be concerned about or have control over?
We don't have control over it. That's state property. It's not village property. The rail trail is owned by the
No,
state.
the cheese. Yeah, but I think it's coming from the cheese factory.
You're right. I know what you're talking about. It's been there as long as anybody can remember.
Yeah, it's worse at certain times of the year.
Yeah, it's worse in the summer. And I think you're right. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I suspect it probably is something to do with the discharge from the cheese plant. But the state seems fine with it. Franklin Foods is in compliance with all of their discharge permits. I mean, people from the state have walked the rail trail many, many times, and they inspect it multiple times a year. And they don't seem alarmed by that. So
I'm just concerned with toxins in our groundwater and, you know, all that good stuff. Okay, just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I think that I've definitely noticed that too, and like a reddish color and the smell. Anybody know what it is?
Green slime.
Ninja Turtles.
Yes, yes. Okay, I'm done.
I thought it was brownish orange, but
Well, I do. I have pictures, and it's definitely green slime.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? All right, we got a long executive session, I think, ahead of us. So
It shouldn't be that long.
motion to entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiations in which premature public knowledge may compromise the position of the municipality.
I motion to go in executive session.
Cindy with the first. Have a
I'll
second.
second.
Entering executive, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, let's go to executive. All right, it looks like everyone's back with us. I'm going to do a quick roll call here. Cindy,
Here?
Jason,
Here.
Heather, you with us?
Yes, here.
Leonard?
Here.
All right, there was no action taken in executive. So I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Leonard with the first, I have a second.
A second.
Cindy with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, meeting adjourned.
All right. Good night,
Aye.
y'all.
Good night.